All right, everybody, know that is not Brad Pitt. That is Mark Putvink. Look at that studly dude there. Look at that tan you got going. Holy smokes. You train outside a lot too, don't you, when you get a chance?
Just about every day.
Good. Yeah. So just in case anybody doesn't know, I've introduced Mark a few times, but Mark had worked with New York Rangers way back. We did not work together, but he'd been with the Rangers, trainer. He's got his, that's awful if I don't remember your, don't you tell me what the name, Patriot Training System. Is that what it is? Yeah, Patriot Training System. How can I not remember that? It's been a long weekend. How was your weekend?
Good. I did a lot of training, and then I had my Warriors. We had practice last night, man. It was hot, 97 degrees.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I know I said this to you. We had a conversation probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We talked about condensed training. Is that the term you used, I think, to kind of get you trained? And it really sparked it. So I've been doing more supersets all the time now, and I'm getting way more out of my workouts, because anybody doesn't realize what a superset is. It's having 2 different exercises, usually trying to work 2 different body parts. Doesn't always. I mean, I say on a back day you could do biceps too, right?
Yeah. So you have primary and secondary movers. So when you say you're doing a pull up or a pull down or a row, your primary mover is going to be your lats or your back. Secondary mover is going to be your biceps. So you kind of essentially going to have 2 different muscle groups working. But what the primary mover is the one that's doing most of the work.
Yeah. I find, and one thing, well, you would say this too, but I did some studying and reading on it. The one downside is if you're trying to get stronger, you're not able to go up in weight as much because you're taxing your muscles more. I guess that's true.
One thing you can do, though, is say it's a back day. You can do your biceps first, so you pre-fatigue the secondary mover, so you involve more of the primary mover.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So like even on chest day, you could do your triceps first, so that you're really when you go to do your chest.
So the theory is then that your triceps are more tired, so your chest is doing more of the work.
Correct. Yeah. So again, on a chest, bench is a little bit. It's if it's done correctly, it's a lot of, like I said a few weeks ago, when you're starting from the bottom position, it's really a lats that engage, and then the middle part is anterior deltoids in your chest, and then the finishing movement is your triceps. But yeah, you can absolutely do that. And then if you want to do what we call antagonistic, so push-pull, so triceps and then biceps. So you're doing a pushing and then a pulling.
Right. That's right, too. So on an arm day, you can just have an arm day where you're just doing supersets. You're going triceps.
Yeah, or you could do, say you're doing just body weight. You could do push-ups and pull-ups. So you're doing a pushing movement and a pulling movement. It's great way to skin a cat.
Right. So people sometimes think, geez, I don't want to be in the gym for an hour. I don't have time to be in the gym for an hour. Yeah. So just do like 45 minutes of supersets. And just
jack it up, 45 minutes. Yeah. Anytime after that, social.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's funny you said that, but I'm in the gym by myself, and I find it's usually taking me. Well, I like to warm up good, so I've been doing like ball slams, kettlebell swings to start up, get really warmed up good, and then get into the workout. And then I try to do are you big on doing abs?
Yeah, so I do them a little bit different. Like when I do my pull-ups, as I'm doing. So say I do 10 pull-ups, the last 5 I'll do knee ups as I'm doing it. So I kind of get both. Or I'll do like where I hold at 90 here and then legs at 90. But but also you got to do your back, because you have, if you're only doing your abs and you're not doing your low back, you have a thoracic cavity and there's a pressure and you want to have that equal. And people have low back problems because all they do is abs and they don't do the work in the back. Right. So you're too strong. So it's pulling on your spine. Right. So you want to make sure that you're doing both abdominal work and lower back.
I'm telling you, I'm loving the kettlebell swings. Yeah. Is it kettlebell or kettlebell?
Kettlebell. Yeah.
Kettlebell. Man, those rip you up pretty good, the swings, don't they?
Let me tell you something. They're metabolically really challenging. So some days I'll do 5 sets of 20 with a 50-pound kettlebell. And that's it for the day. And again, that's a compressed workout. It takes me like, I don't know, 12, 15 minutes, and I'm jacked. And I'm breathing heavy, so they're getting cardio in there.
And it really works a lot of body parts. Like you feel
low back, your hips, your hamstrings, your anterior deltoid, your upper body a little bit, but really jacks up that athletic chain, which is your low back, your core, your abdominal cavity, your hip flexors, and your glutes and your hamstrings, which is really where your power comes from in all sport, whether it's skating, jumping, throwing punches, whatever. I always tell people, if you put a cannon in a canoe, how many times can you fire it?
Say it again.
If you put a cannon in a canoe, how many times can you fire it? Because there's no foundation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why you really got to work that athletic chain, from the waist down. It's really critical.
So do you think like an exercise like the kettlebell swing would be an exercise that you say, like if you had to pick one exercise for your whole body, that kind of exercise would.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, it's strength and it's conditioning. So you're getting some strength, you're getting power, it's explosive, it's kind of athletic because your feet are on the ground. You're having that hip. So a hip hinge is, when you think about hip hinge, it's involved in all sports. Whether you're jumping, skating, running, rotational work, it still involves a lot of hip rotation and hip swing. It's very critical. That's a really strong component in your foundation of all athletics. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I find too, it's a great way to warm up too. Even if you want to do a little less, like do a lighter weight, it's a great way to warm up too, right? Get your
because it's going to warm up your athletic chain, and it's going to get your heart rate up and get you. And I always talk about at least the nervous system. It's so important. And we always like to say the neurons that fire together wire together. Neurons that fire together wire together. So you really, there's a lot of evidence and research that shows that strength gains really are more neuromuscular than they are muscular. I mean, the muscle's only as good as how much you can fire it. So we talked in the past about high threshold and low threshold motor units. So low threshold is picking up a glass of water and taking a sip. High threshold is when I explode and I want to flip this table. But your body always wants to go to low threshold first before high threshold. But there's a training effect. If you train explosively, your body will learn to bypass the low threshold and go immediately to high threshold motor units. So you're more explosive.
So by doing those explosive kind of exercises, you're training your body.
Absolutely. To
go faster.
So you go, instead of going first, second, third gear, you're going right to fourth gear. Bang! You're going right at it. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Cool. You wanted to talk about what? What was your topic today?
So I wanted to talk about retention of training for skill set. And I don't care if it's hockey, but we'll talk about hockey because that's our wheelhouse. So when we talk about skill set and knowledge, there's two different things. You got procedural knowledge, which is performing a task, skating. Then you have declarative knowledge, which is like knowing what year Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs. That's declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge are two different things. Procedural knowledge, when it applies to athletics, is just what we spoke about just now. Motor unit firing and having the major training effect, or the goal you want is to perform effectively in the real world. That means your training and you're learning a skill has to be able to be applied in a real world setting. So it's one thing to be able to perform a skill set in training. Then when you put it in a say a game situation where people are checking you and hooking you and all kinds of things, you still have to perform. It's entirely indifferent. It's a different complexity, so to speak. So we learn a skill, we master that skill, then we functionalize it, being able to perform it under stress, and then we maintain it, and that's by practicing it repetitively. Now, there's original learning, which is the first training. So if you're teaching me how to, like, say, skate backwards, and that's the original learning of the task. But the long-term retention, you want to reach a point of, it's kind of a funky word. It's automaticity, meaning it's automatic. Now, you've been skating since how old? 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, something like that?
Yeah.
You could take 6 months off, get on the ice, and skate.
Right.
You don't have to rethink about what you're doing. And that is a skill requirement that is performed automatically. And there's different concepts as how we get to that point. So you have to learn it. And the question now becomes, do we space out the training, or do we spend 4 hours straight learning how to skate backwards? Or do you teach me in a 20-minute segment 5 days a week for 3 months?
Right.
And research shows and anecdotally shows for me, it's that 20 minutes 5 times a day. Right. And then you have that automaticity where you don't think about it. In fact, we talk about practice manipulation. So let's say, so one of the things, and this is where it really becomes critical, when we're shooting pucks, and we all play crossbar game, like crossbar 3 posts, right? I think that's a bad thing to do, because what are we teaching ourselves? To hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
Hit the post. I'd rather use the targets. And then I'm going to say, Tom, you're going to take 50 shots, top hand left target. I want you to hit 25. When we reach 25, we're going to consider that a level of mastery. Okay. Then I'm going to say, okay, now I want you to get to 35. It's called overlearning. But once we reach that 25, which is 50%, which is a really good level of a skill, development. Now I want to produce a level of overlearning. Okay. Now what I want to do is add complexity to that. So now I'm going to say, I'm going to get different levels of stress. I'm going to say, Tom, 10 push-ups, then 25 shots in a row. Or I may say, you're going to pop off your knees, shoot a puck, get back down, get back up, shoot.
Right.
All right. So now we're adding a complexity, which kind of gets into that retention in a game situation, because you get hit from behind, you go down on your knees, and the puck comes to you, get up, and you got to shoot. All right. So we went from a static skill to now a really real world environment. And that's where we talk about retention and transfer of skill.
That's amazing the way you're saying it. I got to tell you, I'm having flashbacks right now, and I've told this story before. My junior beat coach, one of the biggest influences in my career, my life, was this Rick Hay.
Yeah.
And every Wednesday night, we would have a practice. Now, I was one of the younger kids there. I was a local kid. I think I was like 15 or something. And there's, it's junior, so there's kids up to 20 years old. And every Wednesday night, we would do breakouts.
Yeah.
And I was that lazy kid that would kind of meander back, thinking, okay, take my time, let's practice and everything. So he got on me. He saw something in me. He knew I had a chance of being a player. And as a defenseman that I was, I had to be good at breakouts. So he would get me to skate as hard as I could going back in the corner, have my head on a swivel. So I had all these things to think about, right? Skate hard, head on swivel. Where's your outlet pass? As soon as you get the puck, move it right away. So and now I'm probably overthinking this. It probably wasn't as bad as it seems now, but he would scream at me it just seemed like 20 minutes while we were doing breakouts. I would actually get this sick feeling. When he said breakouts, I'd get a sick feeling in my stomach, like, oh God, but it was one of the key things for me in my career, because that's who I was as a player. Get the puck up to the forwards. And the keys were to get back as quick as possible. Keep your head on a swivel. So all these things you're talking about, these different things, he's adding to it all the time. And by yelling at me, he's putting that pressure on, so it's more of a game situation, like it's somebody coming down on me. So it's just amazing this you're talking about it. Yeah.
That kind of relates to what we were talking about last week about you don't really multitask, we stack tasks.
Yes.
So if the puck goes in a corner, now you're skating, and again, you have that automaticity. You're not thinking about skating. Your head's on a swivel, so you're seeing where everybody is, and now you're already thinking, okay, I'm going to move it up the wall on the left side or wherever you're going with the puck. So you're not doing it all at the same time, but you're stacking those tasks. And all those skill sets and those tasks have to be layered, and that's a great training protocol. So one of the things when I work on the ice with guys, I don't like using a whistle, because there's not a whistle in a game.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are other cues you can use. We always talk about communicating with the goaltender. You say, Tommy, there's two on you, whatever it is. So those are the type of things you want to think of when you're putting together a practice, and especially when it comes to a real game situation. And then it involves that other thing we spoke about, the stress inoculation training, where we increase the stress level. Maybe it's 1-on-1, then it's 2-on-1. Then we're going to throw 3 guys on you, really get you to a point where, you can still function and make that outlet pass. Now you got 3 guys on you, which is not really going to happen in a game.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll be 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. So when it happens, you have a higher level of confidence.
Right.
I
coached with John Tinelli, former New York Islander. We played together in Los Angeles, and he lives here locally now. He had a good young son. So he's coaching a high-level team. I think he ranked number 6 or 7 in the country, just like 3 or 4 years ago. And I tell you what, the practices John ran were like game, like speed.
Yep.
Put the puck on the tape. But he had like really the tempo. So when we played, like when I first started practicing with the team, I'd been away from coaching for a while. I was like, holy smokes, I did not expect that. These are 14-year-old kids. Yeah. And he had them doing a lot of professional drills and everything. And we even had a discussion about it one time, how people kind of questioned, like, geez, is this too hard, these drills? But the kids picked it up. They were fine. I mean, maybe they screwed up at first, whatever. But yeah, like, I guess the big lesson I learned, that don't underestimate these kids. Push them more, to get more out of their career. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that I noticed when I was over in St. Petersburg, Russia, I was asked one day if I could look at a kid. His father was the prosecutor in St. Petersburg, an ex-KGB guy.
Oh.
So I probably figured his probably a good thing if I did what he asked. So I went to watch a practice, and they go to sports school there. They don't really go to, if they're an athlete, they don't go to school per se. Their school is their sport. So this was a 10 a.m. weekday practice, and they were on the ice. And what they did, they split the ice, blue line in, center ice, and blue line in. And they blue line in over here, they were doing, I don't know, passing drill. Center ice was skating, edge work, and then blue line down here was some other skill. I don't know, shooting or whatever it was. But all they did, Tom, was you went like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, and then 30 minutes here. And what they're doing there is they're producing that level of autopilot on those particular skill sets. And again, we spoke about this. They really weren't working on systems and making plays. And that part of the game, I think, is done in the locker room, on the board. But they were developing those skill sets that they have an automatic, they have that, what we call original learning, the retention to be able to transfer it to a game so that they're not thinking about it. Then we can tell the kid, hey, listen, when the puck's in your corner, you got to be here, and then those kind of things. We can coach then. But you can't really coach until they have that automatic pilot of skill sets, and that's a great way to develop it. And that's one of the major differences I see in North American hockey as opposed to the way they do it over there. I mean, you've been to youth practices where you see the coach spend most of the practice on teaching the game, and the kids can't even skate.
Yeah, isn't that true? Yeah, the whole system thing for kids like that. It's funny when you get me think back old stuff. A coach that I really didn't necessarily get along with that well was the Ted Sater we had here at the Rangers. But to his credit, Ted had all these, when we practiced, he would have things like different stations. So we move from station to station. Maybe you're shooting a one-timer, and then you're going doing all jumping over boxes or something like that. And we were all like, what is this stupid stuff? I'll never forget, because he had us practicing one-timers. There's some weird way he had us doing it too. But and went a game one time, the exact same situation happened where I had a chance for a one-timer, shot it, and scored. And I'm thinking, as much as I don't get along with this coach,
that's exactly it. That's the complexity issue that you put in. So you learn at certain level, where you can do the 25 out of 50, and then you add from the knees, turning around, taking a pass real quick, or whatever it is. Then you add complexity to it, and again, now you have that automatic pilot that even when you're on one leg and a guy's hooking, you can still take the shot and score, or make the play. Now, I think I mentioned this to you too up in Albany when I spent some time up there with Robbie Fatorik. He started off practice. Tommy, you and I would get like 10 feet apart, 25 forehand passes. We missed one and went back down to 0. Sounds pretty simple. Then after that, 25 backhand passes. Then about a month later, it was 50. By the end of the season, it was up 75 to 100. And what it did was, it's the same thing I mentioned about Phil Mickelson putting 100 balls 3 feet from the cup.
Yeah.
Because now in a game, how many times do you see, how the heck does a guy not make a 10-foot pass? I mean, so you get to that point where, again, now I'm being hooked and I'm being hit from behind, and I make the, or you can make the outlet pass with 2 guys on you, draping all over you.
Yeah. And you bring some up passing too. When I coach, and I watch some coaches, like I'm really big on do it right, especially passing. Like don't let them off the hook and like just screw it up and passing all the time. Say, well, that's just practice. Like practice to do it right.
Absolutely. One of my pet peeves when you see youth coaches and like they spend so much time again on the systems and shooting pucks, and kids love shooting the puck. I get it. Yeah. Especially with these sticks nowadays. Kids 8-year-olds can rip it. But I always say, if you can't make 3 passes in a row, you're not going to win a hockey game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you just can't.
Yeah, and that really happens in practice, right? The coach is responsible. If they screw up, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to yell at the player, but it's more, so, okay, you're going to blow the whistle. You're going to start the drill again. You're going to do it right. I understand, and her, I've used the saying so many times, but passes come from the heart. If we miss a pass in practice, he would stop and he would get really into it. Like grab the stick and he'd get down, like passes come from the heart, and he would pass it hard right on somebody's tape, And when we were screwing up, as soon as he said that, then we'd put your heart into it, and then we would be able to pass the puck better, right? So
there's 2 things to the passing that I think are important to understand. So Tarasov, the old Russian guy, he said, if you want the puck, present yourself in a position to get the puck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I see a lot of times with kids, they're always going to be on their forehand, even when the puck should be on their backhand. They're going to, and then the pass always ends up in their skates. Well, why? Because the stick's behind their body.
Yeah.
One of the great drills that I forget where I got, but I run this all the time, is We'll line up on the wall. So the boards are over there. I'll shoot a puck. You have 3 pucks, and you have 3 pucks to try and hit it with. Pass the puck to hit that puck. Right. And you get better and better and better. Then you get to a point where now you're going to come out behind the net, and I'm going to throw a puck over, and you could hit it. So it really increases your accuracy, because one of the interesting things I found in this research I've been doing is that if you make things too easy, you're not really improving. I mean, that's common sense, but
yeah.
In learning a new skill set, if you put that complexity into it, failure is almost not to be thought of as a negative thing, because the more failing means that you're just getting better. Right? Yeah. In other words, if you keep missing, eventually you're going to hit it. And then when you put under that pressure and you make a great play, and you get back to the bench, wow, I can't believe I just did that, because you put the time in. When it's too easy, you're not going to, you just don't increase your skill set.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Push to the point where you're going to fail.
Yeah. And that was, and like you said, right. And like you said, once you're successful because of the hard work that you've done, now you realize, okay, next time around, I have to have that hard work again. I know I can do it by putting in the hard work.
Well, that was one of Captain Jack's philosophies, is that when you're skating, you should push yourself to the point where you're going to take a digger every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you're not improving. You're not improving your edge work.
It's kind of like life. It's kind of like life too, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Go for it. You're going to screw up.
This is a little off topic, but it's on topic. It has to do with the way we think. And there's in this research I've been doing, there's a guy by the name of Dunker. He was, I guess, a psychologist or some kind of researcher. And he did this test, Tom. And what he did, he gave you a candle, and he gave you a box of tacks, right? A box with tacks in it. And he said, I want you to put that candle up on the wall and not have it drip on the floor. Light it and not have it. So there's a book of matches, a candle, and a box of tacks. So most people couldn't figure out how that can be accomplished. Some would try to light the candle, melt a little wax, and put it on the wall, it would fall down. Because when our mind, the way our mind operates, when we see the tacks in the box, we don't really conceptualize emptying out the box of tacks, taking the box, tacking it to the wall, and putting the candle in it, standing straight up and lighting it. And it was a very interesting way of showing how procedurally we think.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a different way of looking at it, you know.
Definitely. I like that a lot. All right, guys, we got to cut a little bit short here today. Mark's got to go outside and suntan a little bit more.
A little bit white.
We'll see you guys next week.